means for their future. I'm joined by William Gumede, Associate Professor at the Wits School of Governance. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yeah. It's a very bleak picture when you look at SOEs in South Africa. Eskom today saying it's living beyond its means. It doesn't have money. So how do we actually fix this, or can we?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to fix Eskom as it is now. I mean, the problem with Eskom is it sits at sort of the center of the South African economy, produces 90% of, South Africa's power. And, without power, you can't get economic growth, you can't get jobs and so on. So really, it is like yesterday that we have to do this. Now, and it's all self-inflicted. Corruption, they were using black economic empowerment, but actually as a guise for corruption, really. And then also, I mean, right now, the problem with coal, the Gupta to get a firm, in that context. I think the very, very first thing so far, what they've done really has been, to clean up the executives. That's really, really important. I mean, the second stage really now that needs to happen is that over the long term, we have to reduce Eskom's, the reliance on Eskom. We can't depend on 90% of the energy on Eskom. So we really have to move really fast on renewable energy, alternative kinds of energy producers. That's going to be, on the one hand. And, on the other part of it, what we really need to do, they have to do a skills audit now very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not only, the board, the executive, but now, middle management and down at the bottom of staff.
So looking at SOEs in general, SAA is another story on its own.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that for hours. But let's look at SOEs in general. Do you think the rot is in government, the fact that these are SOEs, state-owned enterprises, and that's why it filters down to these companies, because that's how looting actually happens so easily?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at a long history of Africa since independence, and also in other, Latin America and so on, it's always the SOEs are mismanaged because they're used for patronage and so on, and that often brings down a country. And that is, one of the reasons why we're sitting with junk status is because the entities, they're indebted, they're poorly managed, and so on. So yes, the SOEs, there's a corruption on one hand, but also there's something wrong with the model. I think there's been a misunderstanding about the model of SOEs. SOEs, by the nature of it, SOEs have a higher premium on skills, on management than even a private company because, the main reason really is because it's public resources, it's scarce public resources, it is monopoly. So when you have those type of conditions, you're really going to have to be on merit based. The most capable people in the country must manage it. Yeah. That's the only way to make a SOE successful.
So even if we pump millions into SOEs, it's not going to work without the right leadership.
Absolutely. So there's a premium. If you look around the world, the best run SOEs, and there are not many of them, there are really only a few. And a really big thing that stands right at the top is they've got the most capable management and also staff that a country can offer. So what we're saying to turn around Eskom, it must have better capable staff and leadership and board than, say, for example, a Standard Bank or ABSA.
Yeah.
That is what will make it turn around.
Are we missing accountability at SOEs? Because if you look at Telkom, for example, it's quite successful now because it could be called semi-private. There obviously is a shareholder there, there's a CEO there that is holding people accountable. There are consequences for actions. We don't have that at SOEs, it seems.
The interesting thing why Telkom is doing better now than it does before, because there is other shareholders also in Telkom. So you've got private shareholders, and that is maybe the problem. So what we need to do is to bring more shareholders than government. So you can still have government as a majority or significant shareholder, but you bring other shareholders. So that increases your accountability. That's the first thing. The second thing, when you list, like Telkom is list, you also have additional accountability mechanism because now you have to follow the rules of the stock exchange and so on. So that's the difference, really.
Yeah. So is it state capture, or does it boil down to poor corporate governance, which goes way back?
It goes way back. So state capture has just, accelerated the decline. But it has been, for the last more than a decade now is the model has just not been efficient, I mean, and so on. And secondly, so what state capture has done is actually just made it worse. But, you know, initially, when dodgy board members were appointed in the past, you know, your management is also dodgy. You don't have the project management skills. You think about it, you know, these big power stations were built. You really have to have very good, you know, project management skills. You really have to financial management skills. It has to be there. You have to have the top engineers in their company because that's a premier power company in the whole of Africa. So all of these, so you guess it's almost like a whole bag of things has gone, you know, gone wrong here at Eskom.
So you wrote a piece saying that there are lessons for South Africa's SOEs from other African countries. Just give us a couple of those lessons which we are not really using properly in South Africa.
I mean, you know, I presented a piece, you know, a paper for the Mauritius government, the finance ministry, on because they're in a process there of trying to reform. There's a political will. Firstly, you need a political will to make it happen. Without political will, you can pump in all the money. It is not going to take you anywhere. Then secondly, what you need to do, you need to get that corporate governance right. And then the third thing, what you need to get the capable people. I would even put capable people even ahead, even of money. You have to do that. And then you have to, the accountability, the state as a shareholder, we have to re-look, what does it mean? You know, the best state-owned entities, the state plays a shareholder almost like in a listed company, a shareholder in a listed company. Now, a shareholder in a listed company is not going to go there and interfere in the way things are managed. What a shareholder wants is to say, you know, these are the list of things that you have to deliver. You have to deliver quality products, and, you know, you have to run a good financial sub, and so on. So you stay out of there. So the state doesn't interfere. And that is also what has been happening with many of our state entities. And it is also sometimes board members are behaving as if they are executives.
Yeah.
And then they also don't have the skills, and so on. So you can just imagine then what happens in these places.
Brilliant speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.